So the Indianapolis Regional Championships were last week, and as it was the first official event of Pokemon Champions' competitive season, it kind of overshadowed one of these online Victory Road tournaments that happened last week at the same time. There were a couple of really cool teams that I wanted to talk about, so today's video is just going to be going over those teams and explaining how they function and why I think they kind of work well in the metagame, even in a post-Indianapolis sort of environment. Let's just get right into it. If you guys enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, become a YouTube channel member, hype the video, all of that. And hey, you definitely want to subscribe because at 300,000 subscribers, I'll be ranking every bench in Lumio City. Let's just begin. Okay, so yeah, we had the Victory Road May Challenge number 5 last weekend, and this consisted of 150 players, so it was one of the smaller tournaments, but still 150 is nothing to scoff at when you consider the level of player. Of course, we have Federico Camporesi in here, we have Nicolaj, we have a bunch of like great players, regional championships, like just people who are incredible at the game, right? So I wanted to talk about this as I feel like a lot of people, when they're watching my channel and they look at competitive Pokemon, they have a very America-centric view of the metagame, just very Western, or at least west side of the Atlantic. But if we look at the other side of the Atlantic, there's like some incredible players, and like these teams that they built are really cool, especially when a lot of people kind of think that the metagame's getting stale. I don't think it's quite there yet. I think that after that first regional, we kind of established that there's many different archetypes that work in this metagame, and it can be pretty cool. So, speaking of which, yeah, so Nicolaj here won with the strange pick of Hisuian Zoroark. Now, Hisuian Zoroark's a Pokemon that I've talked about in the past, as far as like sleeper picks for this metagame. Of course, Hisuian Zoroark has a couple of really important tools in its disposal. Most notably, its ability Illusion. Illusion causes it to disguise itself as the last party member until it takes direct damage. It's got some pretty great stats as well. It's pretty physically frail as well as specially frail. Hits 110 speed tier, which is higher than Garchomp and Charizard and all those like very important high tier Pokemon, but it is still falling short of outspeeding the likes of Whimsicott and Sneasler. That being said, what really makes the Hisuian Zoroark valuable is not only that ghost normal typing, which allows it to be immune to fake out on lead, as well as the ability to disguise itself as a partner Pokemon, meaning that they're probably going to go for a fake out into it if they're not willing to risk attacking it outright. But just the fact that it has access to some pretty decent coverage moves. Psychic is, of course, a great coverage move to one-shot the likes of Sneasler. And, of course, you have Shadow Ball, which is able to... It's not really a coverage move, but it's its stab move. Its main damage-dealing method, which is able to hit Pokemon like a Gengar, like a Mega Frostlass for super effective damage. Now, how did Nicolaj use this team? I keep saying Nicolaj. I hope maybe it's like Nicolas, but it's probably Nicolas. Now that I'm thinking about it, but yeah, so basically this Hisuian Zoroark is a really interesting pick. It's got Choice Scarf, of course, allowing it to outspeed basically everything in the metagame down to Mega Aerodactyl. We have Shadow Ball, Psychic, Icy Wind, and Taunt as the moveset, and it's being combined with a Hisuian Arcanine, a Floette, a Whimsicott, Sneasler, and a Kingambit. Now, the two Pokemon that I would say that Hisuian Zoroark is able to benefit the most from copying, well, I guess there's three here that benefits the most from copying, are going to be Hisuian Zoroark, Whimsicott, and Kingambit. Now, I keep saying Zoroark. Hisuian Arcanine, it's able to copy pretty effectively because as of the recent few kind of tournaments that we've played in this metagame, Hisuian Arcanine has kind of popped off, not really as an Intimidate user, but rather as an offensive Flare Blitz, Head Smash, Rock Slide user with the ability Rockhead. Now, because it's not using Intimidate, it means that Hisuian Zoroark is able to disguise itself as the Arcanine and not worry about it being a dead giveaway because it didn't intimidate the opponent. And, you know, I know this is open team sheet tournament, so they can't tell, but in closed team sheet, low-key, it's kind of like doing double duty where because the Hisuian Zoroark is running Rockhead, or because the Hisuian Arcanine is running Rockhead, it can lead off as actually Hisuian Arcanine, not Intimidate. And then in like closed team sheet ladder situations, they go, that's the Hisuian Zoroark. Let me go for a sucker punch into it instead of a close combat or something because it's a risk. There's mind games here with Kingambit, Arcanine, and Zoroark. Basically, you know, Kingambit and Arcanine both are Pokemon that don't want to have to eat a close combat or an Earthquake. Obviously, Hisuian Zoroark doesn't want to eat an Earthquake, but it's immune to close combat. And as Sneasler is one of the top Pokemon in the format right now, it's able to disguise itself as either one of these Pokemon and just kind of effectively deal with Sneasler. You're outspeeding Sneasler naturally. It's not able to fake you out. It's going to try to close combat you because it thinks you're like one of these darker rock types, and then you just one-shot it. And then at that point, yeah, I mean, you are kind of locked into a pretty weak psychic type attack off of, 125 non-stab damage. So it's not like the strongest move, so you are going to have to switch out. But even if they don't lead off with Sneasler, Shadow Ball and Icy Wind are great tools to allow for partner Pokemon to outspeed. Like if you want to lead off with Arcanine and Hisui Zoroark, and then disguise the Hisui Zoroark as a King Gambit, that lead is effective too, because Hisui Zoroark will be able to go for an Icy Wind as they attempt to fake out or close combat what they think is a King Gambit, allowing for your Arcanine to now outspeed the likes of, Garchomp, Charizard, that sort of thing. So this combination of three is really cool. And of course, Whimsicott also takes pretty good advantage of that, as there are mind games. Whimsicott is a Pokemon who typically runs the Focus Sash, but the Focus Sash is taken by Arcanine on this team. Now, it has to run that Focus Sash, and it usually wants to keep itself alive as long as possible. So, in front of a Sneasler, they're going to get faked out most of the time, or Dire Clawed, one or the other, right? And if you are playing as Whimsicott with a Zoroark in the back, or with a Zoroark on your team, if you lead off with the Zoroark disguised as a Whimsicott, a fake out or a Dire Claw is going to go into it, and it's just massive bait. Like, this is just huge Sneasler bait. But if you are truly leading off with the Whimsicott, your opponent's going to think twice about it, and that can make them slip up. That can make it so they don't want to go for like the Dire Claw or something, and that can allow for the Whimsicott to get a free Tailwind despite the fact that it's not running Protect on this team. It is like a dangerous enough lead that it can just get away with it. It doesn't need Protect to defend itself. But yeah, beyond that, like the team is just effective offense stuff. Arcanine, Floette, Whimsicott, like these are Pokemon that we see paired pretty often, especially the Fairy Feather Floette, or the Fairy Feather Whimsicott with the Mega Floette, as you are doubling down on Fairy Boost, Fairy Aura, plus Fairy Feather, plus stab damage. Makes it so the Whimsicott is actually dealing pretty impressive damage. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at this, right? But if you're running a Fairy Feather Whimsicott, and Floette is on the field, even into like an Incineroar, if Fairy Aura is active, your Moonblast is going to be 3-hit KOing. That's pretty good damage. Like, I don't know if you know this, but like without the Fairy Aura, that's not even really a 3-hit KO. Like that is pretty substantial into like a Garchomp, a Pokemon which you typically don't actually one-shot with Whimsicott. You now have a chance to one-shot it with Fairy Aura, as it's a 114 minimum. So yeah, without it, Fairy Feather, you're still sometimes picking it up, but like even into the bulkier ones, even into like the Garchomps that run like max HP, if they're in Fairy Aura, it's like a roll in your favor to KO them. So yeah, that is really cool. I think the team is just super solid, and like of course, this is like the Sneasler guy. I don't know if you guys know this. This is the Sneasler guy. He's incredible at this game, and this is very up their alley. Like I remember when they ran like Sneasler Blood Moon stuff back in Scarlet Violet. Like this feels like a very Nicola team. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on. That was the winner of the whole thing. I think that's really cool that we actually had a freaking Hisui Zoroark win a huge online tournament. This video is brought to you by the Moxie Boosted membership. By clicking the join button below, subscribing to me on Twitch, or joining my Patreon, you get access to my members only Discord server, where we not only host weekly tournaments and team build together, but you'll also get access to exclusive content like full-size renders of my thumbnail art that make for great wallpapers, and even exclusive video content. This week, my friend MJ and I opened up over 100 perfect order packs that they won from top baiting Indianapolis regionals as we attempt to complete my master set. But you can expect commentaries from stream sets of tournaments and even fun bonus tier list videos that nobody but members will have access to. You also see your name at the end of all of my edited long form videos, and if you just want to support me a little bit, you can go ahead and get your name at the end of all my videos for as little as $1 a month. Funds go towards me being able to pay for editing and releasing even better content, so if all that sounds interesting to you, be sure to join the Moxie Boosted members Discord server. Thanks again for watching, and now let's get back to the video. Next up, I want to talk about the second place team. Now, the second place team is pretty interesting, as this is an archetype that's been running around. It is technically Perish Trap, but I wouldn't call it like hard Perish Trap. It doesn't like always want to play Perish. You of course have other tools here that allow you to play differently. But the basic gist of like the bones of the team is the combination of Gengar and Alolan Ninetales. So if you have been playing Pokemon Champions for a long time, you should know. I guess none of us have been playing for a long time. It's been like freaking 2 months. But yeah, you should know that like Garchomp is a pain in the butt for the Incineroar Gengar lead, where you kind of have to play really conservatively. You have to do the whole, we've all been in this situation. You lead off Gengar into, or you lead off a Garchomp into Gengar Incineroar. You get intimidated. They go for Fake Out. They go for Perish Song. They protect. You go for Earthquake. The Shuka Berry activates on the Incineroar. It parting shots out into the Sinistcha as like Gengar hard switches into something else, and then they pivot, and it's just, you just end up Perish trapped. Like, even if you're facing off against like a max attack Garchomp with Soft Sand, this is a perfectly winnable position for Gengar and Incineroar as a duo to like play into, where they can just do like, you know, freaking substitute stuff to keep it on the field as long as possible. It's a team that I think is good, but extremely tedious. It is a tedious team that loses off your opponent making one aggressive read that comes out correctly. Now, when you're playing something that tedious that loses to aggressive reads, you could honestly just make it easier on yourself and throw Ninetales on there. Yeah, Alola Ninetales is a Pokemon that is somewhat slept on. Alola Ninetales isn't like the strongest Pokemon in the game. It only has 81 special attack, but its speed tier is very good, and it has access to Snow Warning and Blizzard. Now, its Blizzard isn't the strongest move ever, as it only has 81 special attack. If we take a look at it without the Never Melt Ice into a Garchomp with like max HP, yeah, it's going to be one-shotting, but it is like an uncomfortable position. Like, if you end up getting like snarled, or like if the Garchomp has like a light screen or something, or like anything that really like makes it so you're not dealing as much damage as possible, it is kind of like underwhelming just how much damage this Pokemon does. Like, especially into Pokemon like Charizard. Like, Charizard Y out of position if Sun is active and you do need to throw a Blizzard out, your Blizzard's only doing like 35%. That's why a lot of people have started to run like the Never Melt Ice. The Never Melt Ice just gives you a 20% boost to all your Ice type moves, making it so, yeah, now Blizzard is a 3-hit KO on like Charizard Y, now that that's your like main target. But it is also allowing you to get more damage on Pokemon like Scarf Hydreigon, which is somewhat common here and there, and even into like Sneasler, a Pokemon with like good special, not good special defense, but passable special defense with 80 and 80. Your Blizzard has a chance to 2-hit KO that now. Basically, boosting the damage on Blizzard is always going to be good, and the Gengar and Ninetales have just that synergy where Ninetales is able to play Bodyguard against the #1 ground type in the game, which is Gengar, a Pokemon that is, or not Gengar, Garchomp. I keep misspeaking today. Today is not my day for recording videos. It's Friday, it's the end of the week. But yeah, basically it's able to play Bodyguard for Gengar by getting rid of Garchomp as soon as possible. Beyond that, Gengar is able to trap Pokemon in, meaning that if you end up leading off like Gengar or Alolan Ninetales into, let's say, an Incineroar, right? And they go for Fake Out into your Ninetales, but you double protect. The next turn, they're going to want a parting shot out just to get out of there. Ninetales will be able to Encore the Incineroar into Fake Out. And then, yeah, that sucks, right? Incineroar is Encored into Fake Out. It's basically locked already. But like even into like other positions where like the Pokemon clicks a move that's like disadvantageous, you can lock them into that move and force them to struggle with Encore Disable. So that is really strong. Like, that duo is something that people have been running. If I recall correctly, I believe Joe UX9 ran a similar team at Indianapolis Regionals. Let me check. Yeah, I just found it. Yeah, Joe UX9 ended up running a pretty similar duo to finish at 5-3. Gengar, Alolan Ninetales. So like that duo is very strong, obviously. Like it's something that we've seen a little bit recently. But what I do want to point out here is that like this is a pretty aggressive take on the team. Gengar, Alolan Ninetales obviously doesn't have to play Perish, even though they can. You can kind of keep the Perish as like an option in your back pocket. But being able to trap in Pokemon that don't want to have to deal with Ninetales, like Garchomp, makes it pretty easy to make it so Gengar just like gets rid of all of its like biggest opponents right off the bat. And yeah, like I said, if they want to lead off with like a Fake Out user, Alolan Ninetales is faster than most Pokemon in the metagame. So if you go for the double protect, you can Encore them into whatever. Like, imagine they lead off Incineroar plus Garchomp into your Gengar plus Ninetales. You double protect, and you can call out whatever you need to. If the Gengar goes for Earthquake, you can disable that. If the Gengar decides to protect while Incineroar goes for like some other move, you can Encore the Gengar into protect, and now like that's a huge issue for it. Like the duo are just super strong. Of course, the rest of the team is just like bulky Citrus Berry Garchomp with Focus Sash Sneasler and King Gambit, sort of like the Pokemon that you expect to see. But speaking about Joe's team, something that I do want to point out is actually this fun interaction you can do with Gengar and Alolan Ninetales. And I've adjusted this team. I've included an alternate mode that I'll put in the description down below. By the way, all these stat spreads, I don't have the official ones that they ran in the tournament. They're all kind of vibes. But you can adjust your Gengar to actually be slower than your Alolan Ninetales by 1 point. Meaning that off lead, if you go for a double protect, you are not only able to go for Encore with Ninetales, but also disable that same move with Gengar on that same turn. And as these Pokemon are typically faster than most Pokemon in the metagame, you can just force an opponent to struggle immediately, making it so Perish Song is very, very easy to get off. So yeah, like that is a really fun combination that you can run with this duo, and I just left the rest of the team to be the same. Now, the final team I want to talk about from this tournament that I found to be extremely interesting was actually the 8th place team ran by Cohen here. Now, Cohen, of course, got 8th place, but 8th place in a 150-person tournament, that's pretty impressive. I don't know about you guys. I just think it kind of sucks that they didn't make it into the top cut technically, but it's 8th place, right? It's a Hard Trick Room team. Now, Hard Trick Room is an archetype that is pretty consistently clowned upon, including by myself. I've always been of the opinion that Hard Trick Room in Pokemon Champions is not really something that is viable, and it's difficult to find the tools to make it work. The reason for this is because Hard Trick Room in other formats had pretty consistent setup. Hard Trick Room was dominated by Indeedee Female, who not only had Psychic Surge to prevent Fake Out, but it also had Follow Me to make it so the opposing partner Pokemon with Trick Room, typically like a Hatterene or an Armarouge or something, we'll go with Hatterene for this example, would be able to go for Trick Room, and then under Trick Room, you're able to spam like Expanding Force. But even if you're not like running, you know, even if you're not running like the Expanding Force Psychic Terrain stuff, even if you're just going for like Hard Trick Room, losing Indeedee is pretty bad. Like having that solid redirection user that enabled the rest of the team while also preventing priority moves from being used under Trick Room is kind of losing that really sucked, right? However, the Hard Trick Room players have adjusted. As it turns out, there is a new duo of Pokemon that can pretty effectively do that sort of Indeedee Hatterene interaction, but just in a little bit of a different way, and that's Farigiraf and Vivillon. So Vivillon has the ability Compound Eyes and access to the move Sleep Powder, making it so Sleep Powder is, I believe, a 97 accuracy move, basically a Spore with a mild chance that you might miss. Very, very mild chance. If you miss it, it's considered extremely unlucky. And then like Hurricane is in the same boat where if you miss the Hurricane, you're extremely unlucky. But Vivillon has not only, you know, this option to go for Sleep Powder into opposing Pokemon while Farigiraf goes for the Trick Room. Let's say they lead off with like King Gambit, and you have a Vivillon and a Farigiraf. Typically, if they want to stop the Trick Room, they're going to be going for an attack into the Farigiraf. There's a few ways you can stop this. Obviously, you have Rage Powder to redirect the attack into the Vivillon with the Focus Sash, meaning that you'll be able to take both attacks. Vivillon goes down, Trick Room goes up, and now you get in your camera up to your crabominable. At that point, you have like Helping Hand, you just go for as much damage as possible. That is really cool, right? But also, it does just have the option to sleep the opponent. You're able to just sleep the opponent, go for the Trick Room, keep your Vivillon, and then attack with whatever Pokemon you decide to send in while still having redirection. It depends on if you're concerned about like Sucker Punch from King Gambit or like Aqua Jet from like Basket Legion to go into your Camerupt and basically remove that from play. That is a really solid combo. This is basically the new Trick Room setup. Now, the disadvantage of this, as was the disadvantage with every previous hard Trick Room setup, is that yes, they can just get Rock Slide flinched. And yes, that was a way that we used to deal with Trick Room back in Scarlet Violet and previous generations, was like, well, I actually don't have a way to stop you. I don't have Taunt. I don't have anything. I'm going to click Rock Slide. I'm going to click Rock Slide and see if I can just prevent it from going up in the first place. Now, of course, it was better just to kind of fish for that, but also play well enough under the Trick Room where you could just stall it out and then like beat them. But this is the alternative option. But yeah, Vivillon Farigiraf is like the setup. Now, as for the Mega Pokemon on this team, I think this dual Mega setup is really cool. Camerupt is the more popular of the hard Trick Roomons right now. It kind of plays like Torkoal. In fact, you could arguably make the case that you could just replace Camerupt with Torkoal on this team. It would be just as consistent without having to rely on one or the other for Megas. But yeah, having the ability to run one or the other is really nice. In fact, we actually used to see like Camerupt Abomasnow as like the dual mega setup, because Abomasnow didn't have to mega evolve to be useful. But seeing crabominable here does make sense. It is like the same sort of like type interaction where, you know, Camerupt doesn't want to deal with water types, crabominable, or Abomasnow doesn't really care about water types. However, crabominable and Abomasnow don't want to have to deal with Pokemon like Charizard Y, where Mega Camerupt can just sit on Charizard Y and go for like an ancient power. Like being able to like play one or the other is really nice. But I think with this team, the fact that you have to choose one mega or the other mega is a little bit of a disadvantage. I don't know how strong crabominable is without an item in its base form, as it has like, what, 130 attack? 135? 137? Something like that? Crabominable, 132. Yeah, so it's not like the strongest attacker under Trick Room, but its mega form certainly is, with it having 157 attack and Iron Fist. But yeah, the synergy there is obviously apparent. Another cool thing with this team is that it does run Charcoal and Incineroar, and I think that is in line with how Hard Trick Room should be playing. Hard Trick Room, typically, the way that you play it is you either win in those 4 turns of Trick Room or you lose in 5 turns. Like, that's typically how it goes. And while you could play a more passive Incineroar that does want to just parting shot out, you know, reduce damage here and there, I think that on this team, being able to run the Charcoal Incineroar, which is able to deal massive damage into a lot of Pokemon, you know, basically picking up a Sylveon from max, not from max HP, but if a Sylveon's chipped down by like a stray Heat Wave or like a Kowtow Cleave, it will end up in range of Charcoal boosted Flare Blitz. Bear in mind that this is an adamant Charcoal boosted Flare Blitz off of 115 attack. 160, that's 116, right? Or is that the actual number? Hold on. The actual stat is 162, right? For reference, we all respect Hisuian Arcanine's Flare Blitz. This is stronger than that. It's 167 with Jolly max attack on Hisuian Arcanine, which is the standard, but this Incineroar is running a Charcoal to further boost the power of the move, while also being a very similar attack stat. It is capable of some pretty substantial damage, and like, yeah, I just think using your Incineroar proactively under Trick Room is going to be for the best. King Gambit, of course, is King Gambit. Black Glasses, Sucker Punch, Kowtow Cleave, Swords Dance, Iron Head makes sense. With Trick Room, your opponent's going to be protecting quite a bit. So it does make sense for a King Gambit to throw Swords Dance on its moveset because, you know, you can just call out the protect that your opponent has to click when you're facing off against a Crabominable or a Camerupt under Trick Room, and then just Swords Dance up and make their life a nightmare on the next few turns. So yeah, I think these teams are really cool. I'm going to leave the recreations for them in the description down below. But I just wanted to share these today. I wanted to talk about them because I think like the metagame, it's not stale just yet. There's still plenty of stuff that we can be running. And yeah, if there's any Pokemon you guys want me to talk about in the future, make sure you let me know in the comment section down below. This is just a little quick video for today, just to explain these teams. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.